Hey guys, Matt Mrozik, aka MV3897, with a little decal tutorial for you. Everyone's got one, so I thought I'd do one too. Pretty simple as usual, just takes practice. Tools you're going to need are obviously your decals, right here. Whatever part you're going to put your decal on, right here. Bowl of water. You're going to need Q-tips. I use these hobby Q-tips from what are they, Mr. Q-tip, whatever. They're actually hobby Q-tips. They're not regular Q-tips. I use these because these don't shed. I found that regular Q-tips tend to shed and leave cotton everywhere. I use for my decals the micro scale products. So microsol and microset. The microset I hardly ever use unless it's going to be on a semi-matte, or excuse me, semi-glossy or a matte surface. This is basically like something you put down before the decal to help it stick. But if you're going on glossy, I simply just use the microsol, and I'll show you that in a second. You need yourself a nice sharp hobby knife and a pair of tweezers. I use the kind that stay closed after you've pinched it. That way you have to, it's just easier so it stays closed all the time. A cutting mat and some paper towels, and that's pretty much it. So decaling a model is one of my favorite parts of the whole process. I don't know about everyone else, but when I'm doing a kit, as I'm painting it and building it, I see all the little mistakes that happen that go along, and of course to go back and try to fix those as best I can, but there's still some mistakes here and there. I think decaling just kind of helps put everything together, helps break up the pieces. It draws your eye away from any of the little mistakes because it's lettering and it's just graphical. It looks really cool. So it's my favorite part. So I tend to take my time doing it a little more than other steps. On my blue Sinanju that I did almost a year ago, I think I spent, there's over 300 decals. I probably spent at least 20 hours doing decals on that sucker, but I enjoyed it. It just took a lot of time. It's very time consuming. So I'm going to zoom in real quick. So I'm going to show you the spot I'm going to put my decal on, and it's going to be right here on the nose. So I've already cut a decal out, and it's going to be this guy right here. See if the camera will zoom in on it, and there he goes. And the nice thing about the G-System Bets kits is that the decals are like Bandai. They're already pre-cut, meaning that there's no edge around the decal, and you won't be able to see it in camera. No, there you can, just a little bit. See right there? There's actually no edge around it. Like if you get decals from Samuel Decal, there's no defined edge. So the trick there is have to cut really close to the decal so you don't see any of the edge. So this is what I do. I get my decal. You'll notice here that I also have this piece on a piece of blue tacky, and so I have a ball of that going, and I'll just stick it on there to help kind of stabilize the piece so I can work with both my hands. I'm going to move the camera over this way a little bit, and I'm going to come in, zoom in a little bit, right about there. Alright, try to get so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I've already done all my panel line work today, and I finished up the brush touching and detail painting of all the lower torso, fixed any little chips and stuff I had. So the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to just take my decal and I'm just going to place it in the water, and I only put it in there for about 5 seconds. I don't let it float around, I don't let the decal separate, and that's it. Next step I do is I just place it on my towel, my paper towel, and I'm just going to let it sit there. Let it sit there for a minute. This will help just give it time for the decal to loosen from the backing paper. It also soaks up any of the excess water, and I just let it sit there for a minute. And then after that's done, I'm going to go ahead and pick it up with my pliers, not my pliers, my tweezers, like so, and I'm going to get ready to put it in place. So this goes right here on the nose there. This is a glossy surface, so it should slide right into position. Oops, sorry guys. So I'm going to make sure that my area is clean, and this should slide right off. And if it doesn't, it just means it's not loose from the backing paper. And it's moving a little bit. I'm going to give it a little more water, and I'm going to let it sit for another second. This is my first time using the GSV decal, so I'm not real familiar with them as far as how long they have to sit and stuff. Bandai's, if you let them sit for, I don't know, 10-15 seconds, they're usually pretty good. There you go. Now you can see it's loosening from the backing paper. And I'm just going to get it into place. And I'm not sure how fragile these are either. I've never used them. I'm going to wet my Q-tip a little bit with some of the water. So that way I have a nice soft edge. I'm not going to damage the decal. And here I'm just going to slide it into position. And also off the camera you can't see it. I have my reference photos as far as where these all are supposed to go. And this sits just like this, centered, with the N on the top part of that panel and the D on the bottom. So there it is. So now that's where I want. Oops, sorry guys. I'm not very good at these close-up tutorials, sorry. This is a tricky part, or not tricky part, but this will really help make sure the decal stays where it's supposed to stay. You're going to take your dry part of the decal, or not your decal, dry part of your Q-tip, and you're simply going to take it and you're going to roll it over that decal. This does a couple things. This squeezes out all the excess water underneath, and it makes sure there's no air bubbles. So once I roll it over, I just kind of smooth it out a little bit. Do the same thing right here. I'm rolling it over. Squeezing out all the excess water. Getting out all the wrinkles. And at the same time, I'm always double checking to make sure it's straight. And I got this right on the first time, which doesn't always happen. If you mess up and it's not in the right spot, it's really easy to do. Just take some more water in your Q-tip, get it really nice and wet, and just soak the decal with water. Just douse it and just kind of let it lift back up. Now, some people let their decals dry completely before they go to the next step. I don't, because they squeeze out almost all the water. This is where the microsol comes in place. This stuff right here. So I just use this. I don't use the micro set. I use microsol. So with this stuff, it's pretty easy. Take a soft brush, and you want a soft brush, a clean brush with no paint on it, obviously. So this is kind of like my decaling brush. Just gonna dip it in there, and you're just gonna flood that decal with the solution. And I put a lot of it on there. Don't be afraid of it. Now this is over lacquer paint that has fully cured over about a week. You can decal over lacquer within 24 hours. I have had some issues doing decals over Future within 24 hours. You can do it. You just have to be real careful with the amount of microsol you use, because it will eat through the Future. So I don't know if you can tell, but I doused that sucker with solution, and I'm just going to let it sit. I'm not going to touch it. And this is kind of why decals take so long. You have to let it sit. So let's see if my camera will zoom in. Focus. Go. So now it's sitting, and it's going to wrinkle up a little bit. It may take a little while, but if it wrinkles, don't touch it. It's normal for it to do it. And once it all dries and everything, it'll be perfectly flat. And then you're done with the decal part. The next step will be to spray your top coat. Now let's say you're done doing your decal with the microsol and you notice there's a little bubble in it or something. It's pretty simple. Just gotta be careful. You take your hobby knife and you just put a little prick, a little dot where that bubble is, and pop it, and then redo the microsol. If you guys have seen my Death Scythe Hell, the two decals on the back of the wings, it probably took me 2 hours just to do those two decals. They're just so big. They're from Samuel Decal. They're really thin. They're real fragile, and actually some of them tore, and I had to kind of fix them as I did it. Actually, there's a third decal that goes down the center that I completely destroyed. so they didn't get that. But on those two that are on the back of the wings, I use microsol probably a good 7 or 8 times. I would put it down there, let it dry, pop all the bubbles, reapply it, and just keep doing that over and over and over again, and eventually lay down flat. And then once I put my top coat on it, they look painted on. So the trick is just kind of be patient. This really isn't wrinkling up too bad, so it just may be part of the GSB decals. But don't, I'm just soaking up some extra water here, but don't touch it, just let it sit. This should probably dry probably about 15-20 minutes, enough for me to move on to the next decal. Actually, I can do another one. I'm going to do one that goes right up here. And I've, let me look at my photos to see which one it is. Okay, so it's going to be, it's going to be this guy right there. Am I on camera? It's going to be that decal right there. So I'm just going to cut it out real quick. I'm not being too careful to be real close to the edge because, again, these are pre-cut or die cut. I don't know what the correct terminology is, but pre-cut meaning that there's no edge around it. Again, I'm just going to dip it into my water for about 5 seconds or so. Get it nice and wet. And then we're going to let it sit on the paper towel. Like that. And we're just going to wait. And while it's doing that, I'll talk about what I did today. Because it's going to be a few seconds. So today what I did on Xeku is I went through and I... oops. Sorry, I keep kicking the tripod. Sorry, guys. I did all the little hand painting that I needed to do. You can see here I did the panel lining on the whole kit. Or on the whole torso, I should say. So you can see here. Panel lined. Looks pretty sharp. And to tell you the truth, guys, I hate doing panel lines. I'm really not very good at it. I don't know. They never turn out as good as I think they should turn out. But anyway, people seem to think they look good. Then I'll go panel line. So like where I had all the masking done, it may have looked like it bled through a little bit, but around that thruster when I panel lined it, it all got cleaned up. Hand painted all those little beads. Panel lined those look good. And then the torso took a while, the upper torso I should say, because the whole thing is the torso. But you got all panel lined in there. You can see all that. There's a few little details I got to take care of. Those two little white sensors right there, I'm going to put an Aurora sticker in there so it's nice and shiny. But that all got all panel lined. I did my brush touching up in that corner. No, it's not focusing. There it is, brush touched. So I brush touched all the areas that need to be brush touched. That gets hidden so you won't see that. The other day I painted all the yellow within the thrusters. I just hand brushed those. So it's looking really good. Let's see if that decal's right. Should be ready to go. But to be honest, it's every kit I do. It's pretty funny. I always think it looks like complete crap until I get it completely done and all finished and put together. Like I said before, as I'm seeing it, see all my little mistakes that happen. Because I mean, I always have mistakes. Nothing ever comes out right the first time or comes out perfectly the way I want it. Okay, again, I'm wanting my Q-tip here just to kind of get in the position. Okay, so that's really not where I want it. It needs to move over to the left a little bit, so I'm going to... There you go, you see I slid it over a little bit. This one doesn't get centered according to the reference photo. It goes off to the left here a little bit. And just checking to make sure it's straight with the panel. Again, we're just going to squeegee that water off. And just go real slow. Again, this is like my favorite part of doing a kit, is doing the decals. It's kind of something like therapeutic about it. It's one of the few things that I know how to do exactly correct. I'm always changing my techniques when painting comes and when building comes. But when it's time to decals, I know exactly how to do it to get the effects I want. I'm always testing new techniques with the painting and on all that stuff. But a decal, I know exactly what to do to make it look painted on. Alright, so I squeeged all the water out. Now I'm getting my microsol. And I'm going to douse that sucker with the solution. And we're just going to let that sit. Now the one down here that I did, I'm going to see if you can see it. See the edges are kind of wrinkled there, and that's perfectly normal. Those will settle down and will be all smoothed out. Alright, so I'm going to let that sit, let all that stuff dry. And then once that's done, that's only 2 decals that go on this part of the kit. So that's it for this part. I'm just going to let that dry. I'll actually set this aside and start working on the other parts. The really hard part, decals on this guy are going to be on the leg armors. And the reason is because of the way they go on. They actually get split. And they are kind of designed poorly, to be honest. If you look at the reference photo, so you can see how it goes on. It goes on between the 2 panels. And right here, it flops over right there. The way the decal is designed, and I don't know if this is right on the G system, but it's got the letter N and the letter D, but that's one big decal. The N goes on the left. Well, if you're looking, it actually, I'm wrong. It goes on the right side, the right foot. The D goes on the left. So I'm gonna have to put that on there. I'm gonna have to cut through this part of the N and this part of the N to get it to fit correctly. I'm not gonna do a video on that because it's gonna take me a while, and I'd probably go over the 15 limit. But that's gonna be the trickiest decal in the whole kit. Oh, I did want to show you my touch-up I had. I showed you guys on another video where I had some peeling on this part. Well, it's all fixed now. I just went in there. I didn't sand or anything. I just took my custom white and I just went in there and kind of blended it in again. You can kind of see there's a little discrepancy right there on the surface. I think once that's flat coated, that'll be okay, and you'll be able to see that. So that's it for decaling for me, guys. The next step is to let it dry and then top coat. So if I do a top coat demo, I'll show you that. But that's it for decaling. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Oh, and thanks everyone. I hit 500 subscribers yesterday, so that's awesome. Like at 506 now. Again, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time. Stay tuned. Bye.